results in 20 seconds. You definitely want counseling before that.
Right.
Because if the results come back, they will go further and do, more intricate testing, but you're going to want to talk to somebody.
Sure.
You're going to want to know that if you take care of yourself, that you can live a long and healthy life, but you will have complications
Sure.
along the way. And you want to make sure, okay, if you are positive, you want to know who you've been with.
Sure.
Those people should get tested, and you want to know what to do going forward.
Okay.
And then even if you don't want to be tested, you still can have counseling if you just want to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
The soup kitchens, the meal centers, they do testing there, up in Norwich, St. Paul's, and the one over on Montauk Avenue. They'll do testing. I believe they do testing at the Methadone. If you are in some sort of a substance abuse counseling, they will do testing. So we don't do testing on site at Alliance for Living, although we could certainly discuss it.
Right.
But, one of the criteria of coming to Alliance for Living is that you do have a diagnosis.
Right.
So somebody can't really walk off of the street. I mean, unfortunately, we have a very sad situation where this one person desperately wants to have AIDS. He feels he has AIDS. It's been tested over and over and over. It's part of, his mental illness. But he's convinced he has it, so he comes in and he looks at the magazines all the time. And can I have this information? Can I talk to somebody? We'll talk, but we can't, for confidentiality reasons, bring him into,
Right.
the Alliance. So we encourage everyone, to be tested.
A 20-second test.
That's a rapid test. They take a mouth swab.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Especially where you were saying where you might not be showing symptoms for 8 or 10 years.
Absolutely.
You might feel just fine,
Yeah.
Sure.
or your partner might not be sick at all.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we've had people who have started to run a fever, a flu that just doesn't go away, and unfortunately, that's their first introduction, into the fact that they have AIDS, because they'll do that test now. I just had a test done. I had my thyroid removed, and they asked me if I wanted an HIV test, and I said sure. Yeah. So you can opt out in the United States. The only people who can't opt out, and there are some states that still don't require it, and I shame on them, is if you're pregnant. Before you have the baby, they will do a test.
Right. Okay.
And then they'll do a test afterwards. And if you are HIV, the baby then is given AZT. I believe it's for 6 weeks afterwards, and it's intensive. It's like every 4 hours that baby has to get medication. But it's like a 99% proof cure.
Right.
Success,
Wow.
So why would anyone not do that? Although there are cultures where breastfeeding is such an inherent part of mothering, it takes an enormous amount to convince that mother not to breastfeed, and unfortunately the baby can become infected through the breast milk. But the nursing system stays very close to women, coming from different cultures.
Yeah, that's heartbreaking, the idea of babies and children becoming infected.
Why in the United States,
Yeah.
that it isn't mandatory in every state is beyond me, but I think there's still 14 states that don't require it, and it's a sin, just as far as I'm concerned. And if you go to give blood, you'll find out, because they test the blood and you'll get a report, and I had years and years ago before, I guess it was right after I married my husband, we got life insurance.
Mhm.
You know, and they wouldn't give you life insurance, of
Right.
course, without
Right.
being tested.
Yeah, that's right. I did that myself. Some years back, I was getting some supplemental life insurance, and they sent somebody out to my house
Yeah.
to take blood. And in fact, at the time, I asked them, you know, what are you testing for? And they basically said, well, we really can't tell you, but one of the things we're testing, you know, guy kind of told me on the QT, it's like, yeah, of course we're doing an HIV
Yeah.
test.
Well, then you
Yeah.
can't have my blood.
And it was like, I mean, I sort of understand it. They're afraid that somebody with HIV that thinks they're going to die is
Well,
going to
sure.
go get a bunch of life insurance.
But what does it hurt once you've taken the blood to tell you what you're being tested for?
Yeah.
Right. And,
they
well,
did.
it's a privacy issue. You
It's
know.
interesting. But,
Yeah.
but that's right, they do that.
But it's my blood.
That's true. That's true. I should probably give the telephone numbers of
Sure,
the
sure.
two testing sites. And you have to remember now, we all have to do the 860. So it's 860-447-2437 or 860-823-6343. So I hope you will call one of those numbers or go to one of the venues in which I mentioned and
Yeah.
get tested.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid, because there are people to care for you.
Yes. And we'll do that again before the end of the show at some point. We'll
Yeah.
try to repeat those numbers.
Okay.
But yeah, it is. It's a very scary thing, and it's always amazing to me how it seems to have been forgotten, and it's like, no, it's still out there, and it's very scary stuff.
Fortunately, if you do what your doctor tells you to do, and it is a wide berth of what you need to do. You have to exercise. You have to eat right. You really, like you say, your blood panels, you need to really find out, you know, what is your genotype,
Right.
you know, and really be cautious. And the last thing you want to do is become reinfected with another strain.
Sure.
You don't want to forget to take your meds, because if you forget to take your meds, you then have to take a whole nother set of medications. You can no longer take the previous meds.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Your body will have built up an immunity. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. This I don't want to get too scientific on you or anything, but there have, you know, from time to time there has been talk about a vaccine.
There are studies being done, you
And-
know, in the United States and, you
Yeah.
know, across the medical international world.
Any progress with that? Or?
No.
No.
I mean, the progress will be that there is
Right.
a vaccine. That's what will happen. I mean, there's a lot of hope,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know.
There's every year or so there's a story about somebody that's seems to have made good progress, some new little understanding, some new revolutionary understanding of
Right.
how it works, but never quite there yet.
Yeah.
And, you know, the new drugs.
Yeah.
You know, Pfizer has Cellzentry that was discovered, and we have members who are now taking that, and it was really rough on them in the beginning. I mean, they didn't crawl out of bed for almost 2 months,
Wow.
you know, but they're now leading beautiful lives, you know, when they had almost left us.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so those drugs are out there, and I know all the pharmaceuticals, for all the good reasons, and then, of course, for all the monetary reasons, you know, they want to find the cure.
Sure.
You know, they want to find the vaccine, they want to find the pill, you know, that is going to be most palatable.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. We certainly want to see a cure for it, but it's just really important that people understand that at this point there is no cure.
It's a managed disease, but yet it still, unfortunately, takes lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think there's probably, you were both saying earlier different ways, a misconception about the term managed